We've all went through deserts. Maybe not physical deserts, maybe it was mental deserts. We've all went through deserts in our life in some way, shape, or form. We've been through a dry area where nothing grew, where nothing seemed to prosper, like everything was going down and not really moving forward. The desert is a place where, of course, many people have perished, never made it across the desert. I'm going to tell you, there's something amazing about a desert. God has many times taken his people in the desert when he wanted to work with them. You know, he actually talked about taking the Israelites through the wilderness, which was also referring to the desert, where it was terrible. It wasn't a pleasant place, but that's where they were developed. And you see, when the Israelites were led out of bondage, they were led out of bondage, but bondage never came out of them. And my struggle with us today is that if we strive to step into abundance, but we must be sure that scarcity leaves us, it's almost impossible to get out of it. We might think we're stepping out of scarcity, but scarcity might still be a part of us. Just as the Israelites were led out of bondage, but bondage never came out of them. And he showed up on the last river before their promised land that they were going to step into. See, that promised land was something they were looking forward to. It was something that had been how lush and how beautiful it would be and how they would live off the fat of the land. And the promises were just extraordinary of what was going to happen, how amazing it was going to be. All but most of them never got there. You know, isn't that sad as we think about why most of them never got there? It was because of a few people that said it can't happen, won't happen. And when we're in our desert, it is easy to listen to the negative voice. It is easy to listen to the one that says it won't happen, you got to do something differently. Because sometimes they sound so legit when they're truly so not legit. However, let's come back to the desert. Have you all ever heard of mineral rights? You see, if we were in an area where, in the desert, let's say, where oil was under the ground, we would have something called mineral rights. And you could sell those mineral rights if you found out there were oils in the ground of value, minerals of value. You could sell those mineral rights to companies and they would pay you for everything they took from that land. And you would almost immediately become very wealthy once you discovered that you had mineral rights on your land. A certain man in the Depression time that was struggling with that, and he was selling bits and pieces off just to try to make ends meet. And one day the oil company comes along and says, we believe that you have a very strong oil vein under your property. We would like to dig for it. If we hit something, you're going to get paid a certain amount per barrel, and if we don't, you know, there's no, we won't charge you anything. Well, he had nothing to lose, potentially something to gain. Why not? He lets them do it. They drilled down and hit oil, one of the most powerful veins that was ever found in the state of Texas. And, you know, the guy never had to worry about making his payments again. That was a consistent flow of oil, which was bringing in mineral rights to him. You see, the desert provides more wealth than the lush green fields that produce hay and corn. It produces so much with its mineral rights. Now, my challenge with all of us is when we go through the desert, we oftentimes are so focused on the discomfort, the heat, the dry, all the things that we don't like, that we forget to realize there's mineral rights hidden in the desert. I like this quote that was made by a man that all of us would know. And when he took his second term of presidency, he said, drill, baby, drill. In other words, he wanted oil drillers to get back at it again and start drilling for oil, start producing this, what he called black gold, start producing something that we could support our own country with our own resources. I say that to all of us as we go through our desert. Drill, baby, drill. Start drilling for the mineral rights that are right there in front of you. The desert you're going through has lots of mineral rights. Understand that they're there. Pick your chin up. Get excited about what's ahead of you. Understand that if we look at the surface level of the desert, it's a death trap. If we look what's below the surface, it's a wealth of so much that not only can you support yourself, but many others that might be struggling. There's ways of supporting people. But you see, majority of the people only see the desert as a death trap, as something to keep us from what we want. While the desert below the surface is hiding the very thing that can give you more than what's needed of what you want. So my challenge for all of us is, I know we all go through deserts. It's impossible for us to go through this life without hitting a desert. Not gonna happen. As we go through a desert, that we find ourselves not taking it for granted, but rather that we seek to get all the mineral rights that the desert has to offer. Get everything that's available to us. Understanding, and once we change our attitude about the desert from a death trap to a wealth-creating concept, not only does our entire attitude change, but our outlook on life and our possibilities have just increased times 100 or more. I encourage you guys, your desert isn't to kill you there. Your desert is to elevate you. Your desert isn't to destroy you, but your desert is there to make you. Your desert is intended to give you financial freedom and at every level of life. You see, some of the best communication styles that's ever been created came from one's desert. Almost every person, if those that have done very well in life, will always refer back to their desert and say, this happened and this is why I do what I do today. And there was a study done on the highly successful men and women of the world, and more than 75% of those had a challenging childhood. Their desert was very challenging as a child, and that is what developed them into being highly successful. I'm going to tell you, almost everything good that you speak about is driven from your desert in some way, shape, or form. You look back to your desert and you say, it was tough at the time, but it taught me this. It was tough at the time, but because of that, I'm doing this. It was tough at the time, but because of that, I have compassion with others that might be going through that as well. You see, your desert has a wealth of mineral rights, mentally speaking. But far too often, people get bitter instead of getting better. You must understand the desert is intended to make you better. The enemy would have you to become bitter. But you, as a believer, you as a man or lady that understands the power that lies within, views the desert as something that gets you to that next level, views the desert as something that prepares your family, your future family, your children, your grandchildren, the lineage to come, the people that you lead. It creates something for them that sets them aside, makes them, as the scripture will say, a peculiar people, the type of people that have such a level of resilience that a little bit of discomfort, a little bit of lack or scarcity doesn't change their mind. It doesn't put them into a scarcity mindset. You see, there was a time where I was in poverty, but I never had a broke mindset. Not always did I have more than I needed. There was a time where I didn't have enough, but I never had the not enough mindset, or not for very long. I had mentors that pulled me out of that and taught me how to have the prosperous mindset even when I was in the desert. And yes, the desert was brutal, but because of the desert, I'm speaking to you this morning on this podcast. Because of my desert, I'm here today. Because of my desert, not only am I stronger, but I also have compassion. Because of my desert, I don't try to make your load lighter. I try to make you stronger, because I realize that your desert is designed to help you get to where you were created to go. Now I realize that all of our desert was designed to help us move up, but I also realize that all of our deserts are painful while we're there. I understand that. I don't wish pain upon any person, but I'm well aware of what the pain of the desert does for you. And the outcome of it is worth the pain going through it. My mentor said, and I'll close with this, while in the battle, it seemed like it couldn't be any worse. And I couldn't see a way out, and it was tempted over and over and over to quit. But he said, once I got on the other side, for me to try to explain to you what financial freedom is, I can't do that. He just said, you've got to experience it yourself. He said it was worth it 1,000 times over. I encourage you to have that level of resilience, that level of commitment, that level of conviction for what you're going after, what you're doing. Don't give up, give out, or give in. It's always too early to quit. Let me remind you, there's a scripture that has a good one, and I will close with this. Here we go. This one says, if you don't get weary in well-doing, in due season you will reap your harvest if you faint not. Guys, make it a great day, and as always, remember, don't settle for less than who you are. May God bless you.